Greetings, fellow humans. I am Hugh.
And I am Man.
And together we are definitely not two kobolds in a trench coat. We enjoy human activities, such as paying taxes,
having existential crises,
and RPG horror stories. Let's see what we've got today. First up, we have a DM who takes a paladin's powers away for stopping SA, a that guy who loves torture, and a Chick-Fil-A TPK. DM takes away my paladin's powers because I stopped SA, by Reddit user Satisfaction Silly 465. I usually play with friends, but we all moved all across the country after graduating, and I still wanted to play D&D in person, so I joined a local group. Campaign was on the dark and gritty side of things, but was mostly pretty fun at first. Unfortunately, it didn't last. I was playing an Oath of Devotion paladin, fairly straight-laced, very much a traditional Lawful Good type character. The party had just arrived in a border town and was waiting for a courier when my paladin sees a thug dragging a young elf girl into an alleyway. Obviously, I decide to follow him. The DM proceeds to describe the thug forcing the girl against the wall and tearing at her clothes. I've heard enough and decide to attack. One smite later, the thug is dead. The DM turns to me and says smugly that my paladin instantly feels his power dissipate, leaving him a level 4 fighter. The party was level 8 at this point. His justification was that the country we had just entered was really racist towards elves, so they had no legal rights at all. So the wasn't committing any crimes at all. So my paladin had just murdered a guy and was thus no longer lawful. I protest that A, lawful good doesn't mean blindly following laws, and B, that's not how paladins' oaths work anyway. But the DM wouldn't budge, so I just decided to leave the table.
Okay, so let me get this straight. DM essays an NPC who's an elf. OP steps in, stops it, kills the guy that's doing it, and then gets his powers taken away because elves aren't real people?
This DM seems to fundamentally not understand what lawful good is. As OP points out, it doesn't mean blindly following the laws. It means following a code, a set of rules. Not guidelines, rules. You have a strict rule-based sense of morality is more the definition of it. It doesn't necessarily mean the law of the land. Countries can have some pretty messed up laws and then be completely immoral. We know this from real life, from some rather horrible times and places. So the paladin is definitely not breaking his oath and is definitely being lawful good by intervening here.
Exactly. If this had been like a really interesting world building / introduction to a character moment, that could have been it. You know, the elf girl is actually an NPC they need to meet to like get a mission or something like that. But instead it's just gratuitous for the DM.
Yeah, that could have been a way for the DM to get the party's attention onto the NPC and get them talking to her and build some kind of empathy towards her. As long as the party were okay with even the implication of attempted SA, which of course is something you usually discuss in session 0. Even it going this far and being stopped can be triggering to some people.
Something tells me there wasn't a session 0.
I highly doubt it. The DM just clearly does not understand what lawful good is, and I suspect this would have just been the first of many such instances of questionable activities and the DM pushing the boundaries.
It sounds like this DM is one of those DMs that unfortunately occur in D&D that basically uses their world as a way to live out some weird twisted fantasy. The Tale of How I Managed to Escape the Formation of a That Guy by Reddit user Mothhoney. This is my first time ever submitting a horror story, but I've been listening to a lot of RPG horror story videos, mainly from Crispy's Tavern, and thought that this would be a fun story to tell. Not so much a horror story, more like how I managed to avoid a horror story. I'm a first-time GM about to run Pathfinder campaign. Our session 0 is next Thursday, wish me luck, set in a homebrew setting where most of the world is flooded with water. There are no actual continents, just islands. Very Pirates of the Caribbean, since I binged those movies around the time that I had the idea for the campaign a while ago. I offhandedly mentioned wanting to start a campaign to a friend, and then a friend of that friend asked if they can join. And suddenly, now I have a group wanting to play together. Neat. I give everybody a laydown of the settings, and one player becomes really enthusiastic with their character concept, and that enthusiasm quickly rubs off on me, since I felt really awesome to have a person already invested in the world. I get everything sorted with him, but I'm still feeling that itch to talk about the campaign. So I talked to another guy in the campaign, a very close friend of mine, besties even. We know things about each other that no man should ever know. That's how close we are. I talked to him a bit in person about his character, and he says that he wants to play a former pirate captain that lost his position after a mutiny. I say sure, but add on that his character should probably not have been a captain for that long, since that would be starting from level 3. Since we would be starting off at level 3. He's fine with this and tells me that he'll send over more about his character over Discord. We parted ways and all was well until I got that fated message. Later that day, he sends me a very long text describing his character's backstory, saying that ever since he was a child, he would find any animal that he could and torture them, and that he eventually move on to larger animals and rodents like a capybara or close relatives. Why the capybara, man? And that his desire to torture those creatures would soon grow numb, and that he would find it tedious. And so, naturally, he moved on to killing and murdering his family in the night, eventually becoming a pirate and inheriting the ship after the captain died, and then getting mutinied because the crew soon grew fearful of him.
Holy hell. I mean, my biggest shock here is that this is tagged as a light-hearted story on Reddit. Anything that even mentions intention to torture animals like that, you can't class as light-hearted, even if it doesn't actually go into describing it.
The thing that kills me about this is the fact that these are self-described besties, and that they know things about each other that people shouldn't know about each other, and yet you didn't know that he wanted to torture animals?
Yeah, that's the other really shocking thing about this. If they're that close and apparently they knew these great secrets about each other, how was this not on his radar?
Guess you learn something new about your bestie every day. Keep it fresh.
To me, torturing animals is absolutely horrific. It's as bad as torturing people, really, to me, because it's that act of torturing something that is vulnerable to you. Something that has less capability to fight back, is weaker than you. It's ultimately taking advantage of a power imbalance that we see a lot of problems come from in human interactions.
It's sort of like that thing where, watching Game of Thrones and like people getting killed, whatever. And then they kill Sansa's dog. And like that was more upsetting to me.
Exactly. It's just that act of taking out your cruelty and malice on someone who can't fight back or is less capable of fighting back. It's predatory, it's taking advantage of the weak, it's disgusting.
I took a moment to process this, collected my thoughts, and sent him the message, word for word. Okay, so I have some notes. I then explained how his character could potentially be a horrible idea. Not exactly like that, of course, but I wanted to be polite and keep an open mind. Mainly mentioning that I want a more lighthearted campaign, that the character concept could very easily lead down the murder hobo route if he wasn't careful, and also that there was very high chance that this character, as it was in the moment, would cause a lot of conflict in the party. Still, I was very open, telling him that he didn't need to get rid of all of the edge, just some of it. His response was, paraphrased, I definitely didn't consider the murder hobo thing. I honestly got caught up in the moment of my own story, but I'll keep that in mind as I add on to it. I bellowed a sweet sigh of relief as I dodged that fatal bullet. And that, my good fellows, is how communication saved the character from a horrible, horrible fate of murder hobo. Thank you for reading. Edit. I hate the fact that I have to make this addendum, but please don't make judgments about my friend just based on the edgy Pathfinder character. This is his first time making a TTRPG character, and we haven't had our session 0 yet. He's a very chill and understanding dude, IRL, so stop assuming the worst about him. Again, thank you for taking the time to read my little post.
Here's the thing, I don't think DM has dodged a bullet yet. I get it, he knows this guy, or at least thinks he knows this guy really well. However, to my mind, that backstory should have been scrubbed entirely. We've all got characters with dark past who may have dark tendencies, but animal torture being a thing like that in his past is a huge red flag for me of something I could not allow being part of his backstory. I couldn't allow it. Even if he is onto torturing people, you don't know what he's going to want to torture along the way. I wouldn't be comfortable going forward playing this game with that character there.
I think it just will end up depending on whether or not he turns out to be a it's what my character would do sort of guy. Because if he takes out the animal torture and tones down the murdering his family thing, then potentially it could be a really interesting character and not be a problem at all. But if he continues down that route and like is kind of set on the animal torture side of things or the murdering side of things, he could end up being a little bit more sadistic and then just pass it off as it's what my character would do.
Exactly. I get it. DM knows this guy pretty well and has a pretty close friendship with him. Fine. Anyone else at the table, I don't think they could trust him. As soon as that became known to the rest of the table, and probably would in session 0, I think the rest of the table could become very uncomfortable with it and be very upset by it. That part of the backstory definitely needs to be taken out, in my opinion, in its entirety. Do something else.
Well, OP did say that they wanted to take out most of it, just keep some of the edge. And to me, that says we're taking out the animal torture and probably the murder of his entire family for the hell of it.
I'd hope that's what that means. If I was writing the story, I would have specified that was being taken out. So I'm not sure it has been, but who knows? Maybe we'll see another story of this pop up in a couple of weeks when the edginess becomes apparent to the rest of the party and everyone else and causes a problem. DM TPK's party over Chick-Fil-A by Reddit user Absolute Sub-Zero 99. So I play D&D with some friends. Our forever DM usually hosts games at his dorm. This was our most recent campaign, as we haven't played D&D at all since. I think I may try to DM in the future though. Our game was a time travel campaign that involved us trying to stop this evil Time Lord. Our actions had a lot of weight in this campaign, as anything we did in the Prime Material Plane, Homebrewed World, Shadowfell, or Feywild would affect the future. DM also homebrewed some time spells, so most of us ended up choosing magical classes. Wizard, Warlock, Bard, Druid, and me, a Paladin. We started off in this quaint town and then set out. Found some Atlantis-style ruins, and then we went to the grand city of Tyloria, capital of a great empire, where the Time Lord's minions, demons some low level enough for us to fight and survive, attacked it and destroyed it. We then fled to a secretive state that the Time Lord had not ravaged yet and found a time crystal that gave us access to the near future, which was post-apocalyptic and hellish. Made to look like the Time Lord's fiery empire in the Nine Hells, which itself was unaffected by time travel. Now this is where I need to add some context about our real life group dynamics. As I mentioned, we met in our DM's dorm and we were all good friends. We would come over to his place on Saturdays, eat some food, usually from on campus, play D&D, and then play video games and talk about life until we went home. One day, however, Warlock's player suggested we eat something good for once and go off campus. DM suggested Chick-Fil-A. He loved Chick-Fil-A and hadn't been there in forever cause it's so far away and he doesn't drive. Wizards player said he wanted some Mexican food from around that same area, so he'd go out and get it. We all agreed to get our food from around that area too, and we ordered our food. DM said he wanted 2 spicy chicken sandwiches, frosted lemonade, extra ranch, and a large order of waffle fries. We then gave the Wizards player the money and he went off to get our food.
I feel like I can see where this is going. Honestly, I kind of agree with the DM so far.
If it is going towards that way, a problem with the order, it depends what, but I can understand a bit of food rage.
Yeah, I mean, I've never had Chick-fil-A, but I know that it's very good according to literally everybody else. I have had their fries, and their fries are pretty good.
We know that the best chicken place is in fact Nando's, and that is something we have and you don't in the US.
Yeah, but we have Chick-fil-A and you don't. So...
we have Nando's. Unfortunately, I don't know if the Wizards player forgot or the restaurant screwed it up because they gave him a regular chicken sandwich and no ranch. DM was like, "Is this regular? I said spicy! And where is the ranch? That's like the best part! Come on, man!" Wizards player then just said, "Stop being a baby and just eat the damn sandwich." DM then said, "I even gave you a tip!" Wizards player then said, "There's no real difference between spicy and regular anyway." Which enraged the DM as they started arguing and escalating until this was a full-blown shouting match. I was afraid hands were going to get thrown until DM just said, "Let's just get back to the effing game."
Well, that escalated a lot faster than I anticipated. You know, I understand getting the order wrong, and like there is a difference between spicy and regular on anything. And when you have spicy with ranch, I understand that concept. It's absolutely delicious. So I get it, especially you don't get to have Chick-fil-A that often.
Oh yeah, there is absolutely a difference between spicy and regular anything. If you want it spicy, you want it spicy, and you're going to be pretty angry when it comes back not spicy. And we did, as DM barely touched his sandwich. We picked up as the party returned to the past in order to figure out how to stop the BBEG, but we returned greeted by an infernal knight who told us that time is the domain of the Time Lord, not lowlives like us. and immediately attacked us. We were level 3, he was a challenge rating 20 monster. We had no chance and got TPK'd on the spot. We all were upset and tried to protest, and the DMs just said skill issue till Wizards player just called him out for doing this. Over an effing sandwich? And DM just said, like I said, skill issue. You couldn't get a basic order right. Maybe God made intelligence and wisdom as your dump stats. Wizards player just stormed out and the rest of us were just kind of silent for a sec, and then we left too. Like I said, we haven't had a game since. DM apologized to the rest of us, except Wizards player, for the TPK, but said he still doesn't want to DM anymore. Wizards player and DM aren't talking, and we are all just kind of sad that our friend group has been soured by this. TLDR, friend group and D&D campaign ruined over a Chick-Fil-A order.
So I get being upset and then maybe throwing in a little thing just to screw over your players, just a little bit, not TPK them, but just give them a little extra punishment, you know what I mean? Like, that's all in good fun. But literally, like, ending a friendship over it, like, we ain't talking no more because you got my Chick-fil-A order wrong.
See, I'm actually more on the DM side than the Wizard side here, because it's not so much about getting the order wrong. It's that they ordered a lot more stuff than what they got. They ordered 2 sandwiches, drink, fries, and it obviously didn't mention anything else. They just said he got a regular, but if they just got the sandwich, that means the Wizards took this guy's money and just got him less and just kept it. There's no mention of it being returned. There's no mention of any other kind of recompense or reimbursement there.
Okay, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here for a minute, because the way I read that story was more like everything else they got, but they got that part of it wrong. And they didn't say that Wizard returned the money, but they also didn't say that he didn't, and that wasn't part of the DM's problem with him.
You could be right, they don't mention it, and that leaves ambiguity there, so yeah, maybe that's not the case. They still received 1 sandwich when they asked for 2, and then Wizard, rather than being like, oh, I'm so sorry man, I messed up, simply just said, stop being a baby and eat it. That to me gives an attitude of, I don't care that I messed up, just eat it, shut up and run the table, DM monkey.
People have different interactions than you or I might, because we tend to over-apologize, especially you because you're British.
Well, we have a lot to apologize for sometimes.
So being like, oh, stop being a baby, just shut up and eat, could really just be seen as friendly banter. I mean, there might have been tension in the friendship group there with Wizard and DM, we don't know, but that could easily have just been a friendly banter, dude, just shut up and eat sort of situation where everybody just kind of laughed.
Possibly, it's the inclusion of stop being a baby and just eat the damn sandwich that makes it feel more escalated and legitimate tension. I don't think either person is right in this situation. What I'm saying is Wizard was the bad guy first, and he was the worst bad guy of this story. DM's reaction was over the top, but I can understand why he's upset.
Yeah, I mean, this will be an agree to disagree situation, because I feel like the Wizard might have fuzzed up a little bit, but also the reaction was disproportionate to the incident. And the fact that it wasn't just a TPK and everybody's like, okay, fine, whatever, ha ha ha. He basically then gets super insulting to Wizard and being like, oh, well, I guess you should get the order right then. Feels super petty and passive aggressive.
Let's just end on what we can all agree on. That Nando's is vastly superior to Chick-fil-A and is the supreme chicken place. Hey man.
Hey, what?
What did one orc say to another orc while eating a bard dressed as a jester?
I don't know. What did he say?
Does this taste funny to you? And with that, we have definitely not been two kobolds in a trench coat. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and make the necessary sacrifices to Tiamat. We'll see you next time.